In this video, I'm going to show you how to complete Project 3. In Project 3, you're going to be writing lines in octaves and writing brass hits using mechanical voice leading. To write a line in octaves means that we take that line and create a secondary line that's absolutely identical to the original, except it's an octave lower. For example, we'll take these notes, move them into another part, and move that line down an octave. So which instrument should we choose? Well, let's start with the second trumpet. By the way, to move something down an octave in Sibelius, hold down Command and press the arrow key. Now this is technically correct, however it's a little bit on the low side for the trumpet. A better choice would be the first trombone. Now let's look at this brass hit. Voicing brass hits using mechanical voice leading can be a bit of a complicated process, so I recommend breaking it down into steps. First, write out the chord tones underneath the first trumpet part as close together as possible. Second, drop the indicated voice down an octave. Finally, move the notes in the chord to the appropriate brass instrument. So what chord are we voicing here? We're actually going to voice an F major triad here. And the reason for that is that we're going to anticipate the chord change. When you anticipate a chord change, it means that you voice the chord within the upcoming chord instead of the chord that it's actually in. For example, this F is technically under the C7 here, but we're going to voice it as an F because we're anticipating the chord change. We do that because it provides a sense of forward motion. It feels like we're falling into the downbeat here, and so it pushes the texture forward. To make sure that the chord tones are written as close together as possible, find the chord tone and then move one to the left. For example, one to the left of F. Well, there's nothing there, so we'll loop back around and go to C. One to the left of C is A. One to the left of A is F. The next step would be to drop the indicated voice down an octave, but we don't have a drop here, and so we'll skip that step. The next thing you would do is to copy the notes of the chord into the appropriate brass instrument. The lowest note of the chord goes to the lowest brass instrument. The second lowest goes to the second lowest brass instrument. The second highest goes to the second highest brass instrument. And the highest note stays in the first trumpet part. Now it's important when you're voicing these chords, first of all, always make sure that you consolidate the rests. For example, it would be inappropriate to have 4/8 rests here, when we could simply have a half rest instead. Also, be very careful that you maintain the appropriate octave when you're transferring from treble to bass. For example, this is F and this is F, but it's not the same F. This F is an octave lower than this one, and so it wouldn't be correct. If you want to be absolutely sure, I would recommend cutting and pasting with Command X and Command V, and we'll repeat that process for the other members of the chord. Now we're going to repeat this process for the next brass hits as well. We'll write the chord tones out as close as possible in the first trumpet part. Then we'll drop the indicated voice down an octave. In drop 2, the 2 refers to the second voice from the top. So this is the first, this is the second. And then we'll drop that voice down an octave. Command arrow down. From there, once again, we will transfer the notes to the appropriate brass instrument. The lowest note of the chord goes to the lowest brass instrument, second trombone. The next lowest goes to the next lowest instrument, which would be the first trombone. And the next one up goes to the second highest instrument, which would be the second trumpet. Now it's very important that you perform the drop while the voices are here, underneath the first trumpet part, because if you move them to the brass staves first and then drop the voice, you'll have voice crossings. It'll be incorrect. Let's repeat this process again here. First, we voice the notes as close as possible, and then we drop the indicated voice. Here, we're dropping the third voice from the top. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Once again from there, we will move the notes to the appropriate brass staff. And sometimes you'll get these little flags here. I'm not sure why Sibelius does that. But to get rid of them, go to the third tab in your keypad and select the flag that says no beam when you hover over it. Now on this chord tone, what chord are we going to voice? Well, because this is an eighth note away from the C7, we're going to voice the C7. We're going to anticipate the chord change. Once again, you're going to anticipate the chord change whenever you're voicing a chord that comes 1/8 note or shorter before the chord change. We're going to go through the same process here. Let's write out the chord tones. Move 1 to the left, which is E, 1 to the left, C, 1 to the left for the B flat. Here we're dropping 2 and 4, the second and fourth voice from the top. Here is 2, and to select the fourth voice from the top, we hold down Command and click here. That will allow us to select 2 notes without selecting the whole chord. Then Command arrow down, and we're going to move those notes to the appropriate brass instruments. Now the directions indicate to double in 2 octaves below. That's a little bit different than we had here, where we doubled in 1 octave below. What we do in this case is take the line, double it an octave below, and then create a third line that's an octave below that. So in total we'll have 3 levels of octaves. Once again, which instrument should we use? This is very low for the second trumpet, and so this would be a poor choice. We'll choose the first trombone instead. And then we're going to take that and copy and paste it into the second trombone and move that down an octave. So once again, we have 3 levels of octaves. We have E flat 3, E flat 4, and E flat 5. Now let's finish this off. Once again, we're going to voice the chord tones as close as possible. Then we're going to select 2 and 4, the second and fourth voice from the top, and move them down an octave. Then we're going to move the lowest note of the chord to the lowest instrument, the next lowest note to the next lowest instrument, the first trombone, and the second highest note to the second highest instrument. Now we're done. Let's listen to what that sounds like.